So I haven't recorded anything for a couple of days, which is interesting because this daily diary project um, is no longer daily and might become even less so because part of me wonders why bother or who cares or um, what's the difference. And I realized that a really big part of my life and a big part of why I do what I do and why I do it well is about being seen and feeling seen. And God, the ways that I um, have felt unseen in my life just go on and on and on. And I think a big part of this project was it was just for me anyway. And it was just um, it being seen is it's a very hard thing to define. And Sydney just wrote this most beautiful post about, who would you like to be stuck in quarantine with? And he just wrote all these lovely things about me, which was amazing. And then I was watching, and this just happened back to back, so this is why it's in my mind back to back. Um, I was watching an editor of a magazine, very well respected magazine, interviewing a photographer. And I was just thinking about what photographers do and the ways that we see people, but we're also showing ourselves at the same time. And not everybody realizes that. Not everybody realizes um, that what we see in you is partially what we see in ourselves, and it's partially reflection. Um, and sometimes, I've had these moments in my life where I'm just sort of astounded that uh, that someone didn't see me. I don't know how to explain this exactly, but I remember once I was speaking at some kind of I don't know, conference. It was to a bunch of brides. I think it was set up by Town and Country magazine. There were speakers on different topics. I mean, it was some sort of a marketing thing, I guess. But, somebody was speaking about lighting, and somebody was speaking about dresses, and somebody was speaking about flowers. And I was speaking about photography sort of toward the end. And it was my first kind of, it felt to me like a big deal speaking to a big audience, a couple hundred people. Um, Maybe it was 50 people. I have no idea. I don't remember. I don't even remember where it was. I do remember that Pamela Fiore was there. She was the editor of Town and Country at the time. And right before I was about to go on, she left. She left. Um, and obviously, well, not obviously, but I took it sort of personally, or I didn't take it personally. I was so disappointed that she wasn't going to hear what I had to say because I had spent a lot of time uh, working on my speech and getting it, concise and helpful, and how to help brides get better photos for their weddings. And the editor of this magazine walked out right before I spoke. I don't think anyone recorded it. I don't know what year this was. It was probably, I feel like I was living in Russia at the time, or I don't know, maybe in Puerto Rico. So it was somewhere in the 90s. Um, and that's one moment that stuck out in my head. Um, and then I was thinking, it's funny, The editor I was listening to just now was at a workshop that I did years ago. And part of the workshop curriculum was a portfolio review by this editor. And I was so excited that someone was going to give me feedback on my work because I'd already been doing it for, I don't know, 5 years, 10 years. Oh gosh. No, I'd been doing it for um, 19 years already at the time. So we get to the portfolio review part, and she looked at a few pictures and then cut it short. And she just said, "I'm really tired. Can we do this later?" And never really did the review. And again, I just felt like, what's going on here? Like, am I invisible? Or why won't anyone give me any feedback? Or, so I took it as feeling unseen. But I think there's something else going on, um, which is that for me, it all goes deeper, much deeper than that. Like being seen had to start with me and myself. And there are a lot of people who are never going to see me or couldn't see me. I mean, I think I got to a point where I believed that even my own family couldn't see me. In fact, if you asked me who in my family does see me, I would tell you it's my son. And I would tell you he is possibly the only one who really, um, I don't know, who sort of really sees me, gets me at that deeper level um, that I can barely articulate. And all these years where I've been asking for, feedback or guidance or help or whatever it was, um, I think, you know, I could be wrong, but I think that when you are pushing boundaries and um, going into new territory, and I mean, I really, I believe I was a real pioneer in the whole idea of wedding photojournalism. Um, I wasn't the person to coin that phrase, but I was absolutely one of the people that was bringing a fashion photography aesthetic and combining like fashion journalism, still life, all of that into wedding photography back when it was a different thing and mostly guys did it, and most of what they were doing was about selling the images. I remember going to a conference, um, big famous, it's called WPPI, it's Wedding and Portrait Photographers International. And I remember going there and speaking to the album manufacturers, and there were really maybe three of them at the time, really big companies that were doing this work, and they only offered brown brown books and cream colored pages and things that I just thought were really ugly. And I said, why aren't you doing black pages or white pages or white pages with black borders? Like everything they did, you literally at Leather Craftsman, you had to choose either a gold or silver frame around your photos when you did an album with them. And I thought it was tacky and hideous. And I couldn't think of a circumstance where that worked for me. I think I settled with um, no, because they didn't even have black pages. Anyway, um, again, as a person bringing the fashion photography sensibility to the world of weddings that were considered kind of the lowest level of photography at the time. Um, I remember the album manufacturer people saying to me, well, this is what everybody wants, so this is what we do. And no, we can't, we can't break our line and do all these different things that you're asking. So I went to um, a guy who was probably considered the most successful wedding photographer at the time, and I begged him to ask the album company to do black and white. And he had the level of clout or pull that it took to ask them to do that. And so that's when they started doing black and white. And it's the kind of thing this is the kind of thing that's been happening all my life. And it's super frustrating for me because I don't really believe that ideas are mine. I believe that ideas are out there in the universe, and different people tap into them in different ways and connect with them and bring them through. And so many people have told me how, psychic or intuitive or whatever that I am. And so maybe that's what it is. Maybe I'm just seeing things a little bit before they happen, and then contributing to making them happen. And yet I never get any recognition for that, which just some days it really bugs me. Um, but it's never been on my radar to, I don't know what to call it, to be bigger in the world. I don't know if that's how to say it. Um, it sucks that I had to go to this other photographer so that the album manufacturer would listen to somebody with a good idea. Um, but that's what happened. That's how it happened. Um, they worked it out with him, the black and white thing. I don't think he even thought of it before I mentioned it. Um, but I think it all comes back to the lesson that I'm supposed to learn in my life, which is that no one out there is going to see you, Tanya, because you have to you have to see yourself first, and you have to acknowledge that you are really good at some stuff, whether or not other people see that. And that is frustrating and hard. And no wonder I was so depressed all my life. You run around doing all these things that you think are so good, or getting good grades, or being so creative, or whatever it is you're doing. And the recognition does not come in your lifetime. Hmm. And then maybe it does, and then you meet people that do see you, like, your amazing boyfriend or your amazing child. Um, and then that's kind of it. That's all the recognition you're going to get. Um, I don't know. I think it's so important and valuable to shine light on other people. Um, and it's funny. It's not, uh, when you get to the place where people start to really recognize um, what you do, or how you do a thing, or what's, your art, whatever, by the time you get that, it doesn't matter anymore. Because it's not the getting of it that is the real issue. It's the feeling. There's some twist of that feeling that I haven't quite worked out. Well, that's not entirely true. I was going to say that where the doing is enough, where the process is enough. Yeah, I love that. I mean, I am more interested in the process most of the time. I'm more interested in the conversations that I have with people. I'm more interested in how amazing it feels to be doing a photo shoot that feels good in the moment, whether or not the pictures are amazing. And then sometimes they are. Sometimes the picture just takes it all to another level. And that's amazing too. But sometimes I think I just have to say, it's okay. Like, this is enough too. It's enough to have all of those feelings and never be recognized. Although I have to say, I did notice starting around 2015, 2016, that the people in my life were changing dramatically. And I was suddenly meeting people and spending time with people who had more powerful gifts of sight that went beyond sight. Gifts of energy and spirit recognition, of being able to see beyond the surface of things. And that's always been my dream, my goal, my just my thing as a photographer, is to get to the thing beyond the surface of the thing, to where I'm getting to the vibration of the thing. And I'm still working out what to call this and what it means, and just how to keep doing it and not care. Yeah. So that's what I'm working with right now. And I have to say, these videos, this is a lot easier to do for me when it's in conversation with another person. Plus, I stay on track a little better. So we'll see. I'm going to see how that evolves over the next weeks, months, years, whatever. Time, no time, doesn't matter. And I'm going to keep noticing the people who come into my life, because that keeps changing. And that is a super interesting indicator to me. Because on the one hand, I think we as a society have put funny hierarchies in place that don't make sense to me. Hierarchies of how much money you make, or what your job title is, or what achievements you have achieved. And somehow that's supposed to be more valuable. And I've never really bought into that. You know what? That's That's the core of this. I'm like a person struggling on that fence of what's the fence? It's about title, achievement, past, recognition, fame, uh, no fame, money, no money. Um, what if it's all the same? What if none of that means anything? What if none of that means anything? I'm going to leave it there.